Hey Virgos, welcome to your 2023 year in review reading. We're going to take a look at your experiences and energy over the past year so we can figure out how to get you into 2024 on a nice and healthy note. So starting off with your overall energy, we have fear and milestone. That's an interesting combination that I have never seen before. But what it feels like off the bat is that you had a pretty big achievement, I think, in overcoming something that gave you trepidation, that you were afraid of. And it's like, oh, snap, I overcame. Like that's the feeling. It's a very much a feeling of triumph and overcoming. And we have that clarified by serenity. Taking care of your vibration, positive environment, clear space, chakra, and energy balancing. So, what comes to mind for my Virgos is that in the past year, you have eliminated some people, places, or things that no longer served you. And whereas before, there may have been a sense of not doing that, just sort of going along to get along, so that you could maintain the peace. But the challenge there was that you were maintaining the peace for everyone else, that you were not necessarily maintaining your own peace. And so I feel like this is one of those achievements where you may have finally found your voice and used it in a way that benefited you. You may have gotten a little bit of blowback for that. Like, oh my God, how dare Virgo? They've never done this before. And your thing is like, you're damn straight. I never did that before. We're going to put this one in the history books because I have found myself and I have found what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And I am rejecting all of those things that don't. So kudos to you, Virgo. It feels as though you had this moment of sort of advocating for yourself and standing up for yourself. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that it felt pretty good for you. And you're looking forward to doing more of it, establishing those boundaries and making sure that you protect yourself in all things and in all ways. So good for you. Now, getting into some tarot, let's first start by looking at you over the past year. We have the King of Swords and we also have the Eight of Pentacles. This is you, Virgo, working very, very hard to find your voice. The King of Swords is someone who can be a little bit blunt. They can be a little bit ruthless. They are very outspoken, but they are very thoughtful. They're not going to just sort of talk reckless, without thinking things through. They're not prone to having these emotional outbursts. It's a very intellectual energy. That being said, the energy can be quite cutting, right? Because they don't hold any cut cards. They're not going to soften things up, to make somebody else feel better. They're going to speak their truth. No matter how it comes out, no matter how the other person feels about it, that's just who they are. And with the Eight of Pentacles, it feels as though you had to work up to this place where it's kind of like, it's almost like a tiger trying to roar, like for the first time. When it first comes out, it's like this little meow. But as they sort of use those muscles and they flex them a little bit more, as they grow into it, it becomes this roar, right? And so I think for my Virgos out there, that 2023 was your year of learning how to roar. So a lesson that you were learning, we have the Wheel of Fortune in reverse. Now, starting out, Virgo, it feels as though, what's a good way to say this? There may have been a sense of, if I just keep my head down and I stay quiet, everything will be fine. Like everything will work out. I'll just sort of leave it up to the universe. And it's almost like the universe kind of stared at you and raised an eyebrow and was like, okay, yeah, there's a lot that I can do. However, you are not a passive participant in your own life. You don't have to leave it all up to me. there are some things that you can do as well. And so I feel like, in this process, you may have realized that you have a little bit more control than maybe you initially thought over how things play out and how you sort of engage with other people in your life. And we also have the Two of Cups in reverse. I think, Virgo, that for a lot of you out there, one of the things that you learned over the past year is that you are not in alignment with some of the people around you. And as you started to find your voice, that misalignment became even more pronounced, where it's like, hold up, I don't think that I agree with that. I don't like the way that you're treating me. I don't like the way that you're taking me for granted. I don't like the way that you move. In the past, you may have just sort of, shrugged and bit your tongue. In 2023, I think you started speaking more about this. And so that's something that sort of showed up for you over the past year. Like, you don't have to sit there and be so accepting. You don't really have to take that. Now, this lesson changed you, I think, in a profound way with the Knight of Cups in reverse and the Moon in reverse. So the Knight of Cups is someone who, they present their love. They sort of wear their heart on their sleeve. They give their emotions relatively freely, and they're the ones who are consistently moving towards other people to give them their emotional gifts. And I do think, Virgos, that in 2023, you were like, oh, to hell with that. I'm not giving you my emotional gifts when you're over here acting a plumb fool. I'm not doing that. No. So I think that you became a lot more discerning about who it is that you give your energy to, who it is that you give your time to. And for those that you don't deem worthy of that, I do think that there was a pretty explicit dialing back of those emotions, where it's like, I'm not ghosting you. I'm going to let you know I'm no longer around. So I think that there were some challenging conversations that were had, but may have been necessary for you to clear out that space completely. And we also have the Moon in reverse. Now, the Moon, when it's upright, is about things that are hidden, things that are yet to be revealed. And so I think that you uncovered a lot of truths about not only the people around you, but yourself as well. And so in unpacking all of that, it started sort of empowering you to find your voice and to speak out on your own behalf. So you've become a lot more assertive, a lot more confident, and a lot more protective of your inner being and your space. Now, something that may have held you back this year. Okay, we have two cards that flipped out for you. We have the Ace of Cups in reverse, and we also have Strength in reverse. I think, Virgo, that for a while, there was this sense of, if you advocated for yourself, if you set your boundaries appropriately, that people wouldn't like you and that people wouldn't want to be around you. And, somehow you would be ostracized. And, it doesn't feel as though, with the Ace of Cups in reverse and Strength in reverse, it doesn't feel as though you thought that you would be able to stand up for yourself for fear of losing people around you. I think that ultimately, Virgo, what you found is that in doing so, in starting to stand up for yourself, in sort of gathering that last little bit of strength you had, even though you were afraid of doing so, that brought the right people into your life and the wrong people exited. So being your authentic self is going to weed out the people who should not be there, who should not be in your space, who should not be privy to your energy or your time or anything like that. And so I think that you starting to come into your own voice and being able to articulate the things that you want and the things that you don't want, in spite of the sort of fear and apprehension that you may have had in doing so, is setting up a much more fertile environment for the right people to be in your life. So something that you ignored this year, we have the King of Cups in reverse, and let's clarify that a little bit for my Virgos. All right, well, that came quickly. We have the Seven of Wands and the Nine of Swords, both in reverse. So looking at all of these three together, it's an interesting energy, because upright, the King of Cups is someone who is very abundant, someone who is very giving, very generous with their emotions, especially when it comes to other people. Even more important than that, they are very generous in terms of their love with themselves. And so I think that that's something that you may have not necessarily given a lot of attention to as you were trying to maintain the peace for all of these other people. We have the Seven of Wands in reverse. Now, when the Seven of Wands is upright, you have this person, this woman in this card in particular. She has a very stern, strong, determined face. She is wielding her wand with both hands, and she is fighting off these other wands that seem to be poking at her. But she's standing from a position of strength, right? If you can see, she's over top of all of these other wands, and she's standing looking down. And I think that one of the big things that you ignored, Virgo, is that you are actually coming from a position of power, more than you may have given yourself credit for. And so there was no need to sort of go along to get along. You had more strength than I think that you realized. And with the Nine of Swords in reverse, this is anxiety, it's sleepless nights, it's a lot of stress. And I don't ever want to victim blame and things, but one of the things that you may have not realized at the time is that a lot of this stress could have just been alleviated with you having firmer boundaries. But as with most of us, I know it certainly was the case for me, this is something that you learn over time, that your peace, your serenity, your lack of stress has much to do with how you engage with other people. You know, if there are people who are causing stress or creating chaos in your life, more often than not, you have the ability to just not engage with them. And even if you have to, in certain instances, there are ways that you can engage with them as little as possible, sort of getting what needs to be done while maintaining your peace. And whether that's, sort of dealing with them on a as needed basis, and then making sure that you take time for self-care, for meditation, for therapy, or whatever it is, that is super helpful, right? That is absolutely helpful. Now, one of the things that you should be very proud of in this journey, we have the Knight of Swords. You are moving forward, Virgo. It feels like once you learn this lesson, it was like, oh, okay. Yep. Lesson learned. Thank you so much. We're good. And it felt so empowering that it's like you almost look forward to the occasions where you can enforce your boundaries, right? It's like you are going full speed ahead, and it's almost like when it clicked, it really, really clicked for you. And so this is not one of those, I think, lessons that were very wishy-washy. It was like, I got it. Thank you, universe. I got it. Let's go. So it's like the first time you learn to say no. Now it's like, no, nope, niet, nada, no, thank you. No, but thank you. It's like you can't wait to exercise that muscle as much as you possibly can. And we have that clarified by the Star. Now, the Star is a card of wishes, hopes, dreams. It can also be a card of disillusionment. And so I think the veil has been pulled off. It's no longer covering your eyes. You're no longer seeing things through rose-colored glasses. Like, you have a lot of clarity on yourself, a lot of clarity on different situations. And I think you are taking that and you are moving full steam ahead. So, Virgo, lesson hard learned, but very well learned. And I think that's going to serve you well in the new year. So that's what I got for you. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I will see you soon.